It's time again to unwind and enjoy the best of good music and hot news stories on JJZ, Just with Zika, on iGroup Radio, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11 a.m. to 12 noon. Just with Zika. Crazy!
House. Great to have you in the house.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, see the way he sounds? Oh my god. Before we go on and interview him, there is a message to all artists out there. You know, if you're an artist, if you're in the entertainment business, Kefi has a message for you. If you don't know Kefi is the Branama queen. She's a gospel singer and married to Teddy Isolta Del Momo, who works with Star FM in Lagos. The artist said that her belief that every musician needs to have another source of income, especially when the music stops. I totally agree, Charles. You know, I was talking to a friend a few days ago, and I said, music is not like acting. When you get older, you get an older role, a script. Music is when you get to a certain age, you have to, leave it for the younger ones to carry on with.
Yeah.
So you need to have something like a backup. You need a backup. Is that do you agree, Kathy?
Yeah, in music, like I always say, every musician has his day in the sun.
Right.
And I always advise, even artists generally, not even musicians, only even actors. You make hay while the sun shines, because stardom is fleeting. You can be a star for 5 to 3 years, 10 years maximum, and then your ratings start dropping, and then sometimes depression sets in.
Right. There are stories of some Hollywood stars who killed themselves when they couldn't, get all those things they used to have back in the day. Like, oh God, I can't live a poor man's life. I'm gonna kill myself. And they take heroin and drugs combined together, and then we hear they're dead, overdose.
For those who allow themselves to get into those kind of pressure, and it's advisable that when the stardom is at it, what they call a trajectory, going up to a peak. Most of those people should actually, it's just like politics. You start planning for your life after retirement.
Did you say politics?
Yeah, it's just
plan
like
for your life after
yes,
or before?
After you leave office. Of course, because at least constitutionally
do you think that African politicians ever get tired of wanting to be in power? They always look for something else to,
Yeah, we are a different breed here in this part of the world, but because democracy is still at its infancy stage, basically, because if you're looking at celebrating 13 or 14 years of democracy, however staccato it is, but I think if we let it go for another decade or so, we'll get used to it. But then people always want to, because they see that the national teal is something that you can dip your fingers into. That's why they want to rush and they want to be there forever.
Okay.
But, once we change that mindset, we'll move forward.
All right. So, people, I'm talking to Ace, movie director and producer Charles Novia. Don't think he's a small boy. He's not small. He looks like he's 25.
Oh,
Dude is like almost 50.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm in my early 40s.
Yes, you're born in 1971. I know that.
Right.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Benin City. I was born in Benin from Edo State. I was a child actor. For some of my peers who don't remember me, I was very, very, very visible in programs on television then in Benin. Then I came to Lagos in '88. I started featuring in also national programs.
When you say national programs, what
on
programs
the NTA network service there.
Okay.
I went to University of Nigeria on Nsukka. I have a bachelor's degree in dramatic arts.
Okay.
And then I did my youth service coincidentally in NTA, Victoria Island again. The national service, and I was retained after, so I was with NTA for like 3-4 years before I left to set up my own production company. That was at the cusp of the home video industry just started then.
How did you start? And where did you get money to start the business?
The industry itself is built on self-belief. There are no structures, or there were no structures. I think there are small structures right now, but there are no structures at that time to sort of aid you if you had any idea or any creative ideas.
Didn't your father say you were mad or something?
No. Well, unfortunately, my father died when I was just leaving university. But my mother sort of supported me. But then I sold a whole lot of stuff, personal stuff, just to get my first movie done, and sort of had to plead with some of the actors to, let's get this going. And it was quite interesting. My first movie was in 2000. It's called Deep Secrets. Had Norbert Young, Gloria Young, Empress Njama, and a few other people. You know, it won a couple of awards. But I think it wasn't much of a commercial success. But that had to do with the marketer who marketed it. You know, I didn't understand the slant where I was coming from. It was quite different from the kind of films that were in vogue then. From there, I never looked back. You know? So about 40 movies later,
wow,
there I am.
That's amazing. That's amazing. When we saying he's an ace producing director, we're not messing with you. We're not playing with you. It is true. You've worked with all kinds of actors and actresses. Can you name some of them that we know?
Well, almost all of them. I'm more or less into talent development, so I work with established and I develop also new stars. But just name them. I work with
Genevieve Nnaji,
I work with Genevieve.
Jim Ike.
I've not really done anything with Jim Ike, but at the early stages of my career, I wanted to, but you know, it didn't work out.
Ramsey
but
Noah.
I've done with Ramsey, with
Rita Dominic,
Motola, with Stephanie.
Okay, Stephanie
Stella Damasus.
Okay.
Desmond was my protege, my creation, in quotes. Almost all. I mean, you know, about and so most of the actors who got their at the risk of sounding immodest, who got their push, their stardom through me. You know, Caroline Kanem, Desmond, Grace Armour, Empress, a whole lot of them. Maybe recently, in a way, recently, maybe OCU KJ, you know, and all that. So
you're still in the business of making movies. If you were to make any controversial movie on a person, who would that be?
Well, I'm actually working on a script right now. I'm in pre-production, and a lot of my friends have been expressing fears about if I will be alive if I do that movie. But it's titled "The Day Abacha Died," and they feel that you know my doing it it's not at the right time. So we'll pray about it and see how it goes. But I think there's a story to be told based on the memoirs, based on the whole lot of interviews I've read about all the incidents that happened just before Abacha died. So that's what my story. So that's what I'm you know.
I asked this question because somebody's asking you to make a movie about her life, and we actually had her here on the show. He actually wrote a little piece about this lady, and she replied very angry and said, let me read it to you. She said, after you'd said that she was showing off too much on internet and seeking for attention, she said, now Mr. Charles Novia, make a movie about me and please make me look better than I am. I love it. She actually is Mahida. And she also says, Charles Novia is just an attention seeker like myself, but he's so much of a hypocrite to admit it. And he writes bad about people to get attention. Do you think that is true?
I think there's a dearth of intellect in our society today. And I have no apologies for if I come out sounding more intelligent and competent than a whole lot of other people. I went to school. I invested a lot of my time and money in my education. Now, if any other person by dint of chance or personal decisions could not do that, I don't have any apologies for that. But what I have, my education tells me that there's a moral fiber in a society, and a society that is not built on moral laws and the moral fiber gets lost. We are gradually losing it in Nigeria. Right. Yes, however hypocritical it might say we are, but at least we have some things that keep us as a people, that keep us going, right? Okay. And so when this character in person started posting nude pictures and all that, my first reaction was that I was quite shocked that it was majority of Nigerians. So we were egging her on, saying, go ahead. I thought that was so silly. I mean, you have kids. We know you're in the internet age, you're in the jet age, and you have children looking at all these things. And tomorrow you guys now say, oh, you have the bad people in government, you have bad people. But the people in government, they come from you.
Right.
So if you start encouraging those things and nobody says anything about it, then you're lost. Mm-hmm. So I am known more or less as a social critic, apart from being a film producer. And when I see things that I feel it merits objective criticism, right, I speak it. But for the people that are being criticized, they see it as destructive. Okay. Because sometimes there's a shallow mentality. So they see that. So like she's saying that I'm taking attention. I'm taking attention after what? After doing so many films.
Oh, hold on. There is one. She says, my reply to Charles Novia is he's just a movie producer, and whose career is dying,
really?
Needs to write.
Well,
when did she produce Alambuza?
I think Alambuza just came out.
Okay.
In 2013. So I think we should set things right. we're just talking about stardom now. A movie producer never has a career that dies, even in Hollywood. That's why you have Martin Scorsese at pushing 70, still producing and directing films.
Yeah.
That's why you have you have Clint Eastwood, who moved from being an actor to a producer and director. So a movie producer does not, his career never dies.
Okay.
It is the actors, it is the singers who really have a lull in their career.
Okay.
And for producing it comes with money, it comes with intellect. It's not just going and leading people about. So for this person, for those kind of persons who think like that, it is a pity. I don't have, I suffer fools a little bit gladly. So I don't have any apologies for that. But to say I would do a movie, she was being tongue in cheek about that, but probably you have some crazy person that will do that kind of movie. But of course, I do not also think too in the society where we are. You know the funny thing about Nigeria or Nigerians, the culture out there right now, they might be supporting or be clapping for this Mahida character as it is, that she's releasing a video.
Oh, there's also the older one. What's her name again? Afro Candy. Yes.
Oh yeah, they are all based on the same feather anyway. I think the easiest way to get fame, and that's me tell you, that's cheap. So most of us walked from the ground to get to where we are. But these people just come in from nowhere, and they think the easiest way is to post nude pictures or to do nude things, and that's a conflict. That's a conflict of thoughts, a conflict of morals between some of us who believe in where the society should be going, and they who think that they are already in a different climate. Let's get it straight. They are all based in America or based in somewhere else where the moral fiber of those societies are at ground zero.
All right.
Right? It is not so here. But of course, no, however hypocritical you say that we are, we still have things that keep us as a nation, right? So if nobody is saying, talking, is because people maybe scared. And I'm not scared. I'm never ever scared to say my mind, as long as it's coming from a standpoint of objectivity.
Recently, not too long ago, this movie was produced, Half a Yellow Sun, written by Chimamanda Adichie, yes. And some of the actors were, promoting the movie. And Genevieve was somewhere in Canada, and she was asked a question about Biafra, and you actually were not impressed with what she said. Let me play the audio so we can listen to it one more time.
I knew about the film before I read the book, and then I learned a lot about our struggles, especially as Easterners. I'm from the East. We're called the Igbo tribe, and we were greatly involved in the war. And so, you do realize that there were a lot of restrictions which aren't there now. And as children, we weren't told. Probably, I think our parents, tried to shield us from,
You were not impressed with her response. You actually said she was not prepared enough. Why did you?
Well, I think you're getting something wrong. I have a blog, charlesnoviadaily.com, and there are a whole lot of opinions. People write, people do the articles. So I think that article you must have seen was written by Uduak, who is a lawyer, an entertainment lawyer in America, and which I repasted on my blog. So those were basically the opinions of Uduak, who actually heard that interview and placed that Genevieve was not impressive. So that wasn't me. I think whatever it is, whatever personal, that's Genevieve's personal feelings that it were in that question. Basically, she was honest enough to say that she was young, so I don't have any problem with that.
Okay, so you think her response was okay, right?
Well, she was sort of smart enough to say that she wasn't born when Biafra, but but the writer of that critique actually said that even if you're not born, there's something called history. So it's just a clash of opinions.
Right. The thing about Biafra is a lot of our parents didn't really tell us the whole story. Sometimes they just tell you half of it. It was really bad. I don't want to date a Yoruba man. Don't date a Yoruba man.
I think we've not had a healing therapy, a collective healing therapy, why would I put it? We should go through a collective healing therapy in Nigeria. A whole lot of things about the war, even though I was born after the war too, but a whole lot of things about the war are basically stories we were told by our parents. Those who saw it, it's too painful for them to recollect.
Okay.
And I think we need to know a lot of things about it because it will help us. When people are beating the drums of war, as you're seeing in Nigeria at present, people don't understand. When people say, let us separate, I laugh because I think people don't understand what war means. What you're seeing on CNN, what you're seeing on all these other Al Jazeera and all that about Syria and all that, the child's play compared to what happened in Nigeria. We should not pray for war. I think it's better to dialogue and come to an agreement and say, look, let's live like this than to fight wars. Okay. So it's painful to talk about the Biafra for a lot of people, but I think it's also part of our history that I think should also be told. So we're just at crossroads there.
Do you think that should be included in the school curriculum? The history?
Yeah, well, it should be, but the government, successive governments, in Nigeria have always felt that it would stoke the embers of discord, so they always leave it out.
You remember that Chinua Achebe actually wrote a story about Biafra, and some people say it was so one-sided, it wasn't true.
Well, that was a memoir. There was a country, that's what it was called. I read it. It's fantastic. It was his own. It's what he saw. It's what he experienced because he was part of the Biafran government. So when you write a memoir like that, you're talking from your own experience. I wrote a memoir on Nollywood in November, so it's my own experience. So people would say, what did they expect him to say? It was what he saw. He saw what was happening, and he was part of it. So he wrote about it. So if anybody had any misgivings about that, you go and write yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have in the house Ace movie director and producer Charles Novia. I call him Mr. Rebel.
Really? No, I'm just I'm a mellow, as the Americans would say, I'm a mellow, cool brother.
Okay, he tells it the way it is. You also wrote, about you gave an opinion, your 5 top actresses, and then you gave a list. Actually read it, and you said you described to you why it was the way it was for you. That some people were not happy with that list. Rita was one of them. She's like, why would I be number 5? I think I understand where she's coming from. It's like when you were working in an organization, you've been there for so many years, and then someone who's a little baby comes along, and then you praise that little baby more than you praise the one who's there. You feel slighted. Could that have been the reaction she got when she was giving?
In our industry, a lot of people we're not wired for criticism, constructive criticism. The industry has been pampered so much that everybody believes that they are demigods. So when somebody comes out, and even somebody from within the industry, and is saying this is wrong, this is how it should be, you are looked upon as crazy, or you don't know what you're talking about. Now, I am a professional, trained director, filmmaker. I have traveled all over the world, and so there are indices for criticism, there are indices for making such a list. My top 5 list was based on body of work for the year 2013. And so it doesn't matter whether she had done 5 films or she had done 1. Even the person that came out third had done only 1 movie, but that movie she was outstanding in my opinion. And those things are basically my opinion, but they went viral, but that's good enough. I think, as it were, personally, Rita is a good friend of mine, but like I told her, I think she should take criticism. There were others, they didn't make the list, not because they didn't do films, but because what we saw in the year that passed was basically just the same. It's the same. An actor can do 500 films in a year and is playing the same thing. So when an actor or an artist attempts to be creative, think out of the box and act out of the box, then you give kudos to that. So I do not think in any way that those things that let's get something straight. When I do my critiques, I do not go personal. I go from a very professional point of view. But if people want to say take it personal, I don't care. It depends. Like I said, there's a shallow way of thinking that I think we need to sort of circumvent or need to re-engineer. Especially within the entertainment industry. Damilola Adebite, who came number 3, did Flower Girl, and she was fantastic in that movie. My personal opinion was that she was quite good. It was quite different from what I had seen her doing Teen Cell. Rita did the meeting where she was outstanding, and then she did. I used 2 movies. Then she did Finding Mercy, where she was lukewarm. So I felt, in this kind of thing, you could place her that, your character in the meeting actually was a supporting character, wasn't even lead, and sometimes it tended towards the melodramatic.
Right.
It wasn't deep enough. It was comedy. So they are quite, you used parameters and criteria to criticize, to do critiques.
And your number 1 on the list was?
Mercy Johnson was
Mercy
number
Johnson.
1. I think
Why?
Mercy Johnson
She's
is
versatile?
a fantastic actress. She has blossomed over the years. I've never met her. That's the funny thing in the industry. She sees me and we greet and all that. I've watched her movies. I think if you talk about in terms of character interpretation right now, is Mercy.
Okay.
See her in the maybe spawn of movies. You see her in the, she's fantastic. So, and basically people reacted very well to that list because they felt that yes, she was.
All right,
was.
let's talk a bit about wardrobe.
Right.
Most of the times you watch the Nollywood movies, some of the actors, especially Mercy, a lot of people have complained that she wears almost the same outfit when she's supposed to be a big girl. It's always a very tight, clinging outfit. What would you say could be done to change that? When you act in a different role, you should look the part.
Well, because Nollywood movies, more often than not, most of them are shot within a short time frame. There's a tendency for mistakes to be made. I'm not holding brief for any. I think the professionalism of the producer and the director comes to play here.
Right.
If you get a very good costumier, then you won't have those kind of problems. But if you want to patch things and just want to get things done, just to take the market for granted,
Yes.
then you see all those lapses.
Right.
I think people should, there's what you call the new Hollywood, that it's where movies that go to the cinema, they have more attention to details right now and all that. I think people should, begin to learn from that, so that the audience is more sophisticated than it was 10 years ago.
Right.
And if we begin to put that in the back of our minds as producers, and those lapses you talk about,
Right.
will be less seen than they are now.
And finally, before we go, Nollywood was 20 a few months back. You were really displeased with the organization. Why?
Well, I was there, and the awards night, and for the hype. I'm part of this. I'm part of the industry. I know all the guild heads. I'm a member of about 2 or 3 guilds and all that. So for all the hype that the industry had, put up over this event, it was so shallow. It was annoying. And like I said in my article, if we don't start telling ourselves the truth, we would accept mediocrity as what it is. So I had to come and look. It was a shame of a sham, or a sham of a shame, because with all the millions, with all the money spent, the logistics, the organization, even though we had a good venue at the Intercontinental Hotel, but it was so poorly organized. So if you had millions to spend, why didn't you just spend a little bit of that on the stage management or the events management itself, and a little bit of stuff, So I don't think my colleagues are quite happy about that. But then,
And finally, before we go, just briefly, you wrote something about the politics of celebrity endorsements.
Right.
You spoke about the relationship between Genevieve and the band, and they
Right.
both, endorsed 2 different brands. And you said that could make them break up if they have a relationship anyway. Why is that?
Well, that was a quote from what I got from one of the blogs, but I put it in my article that the way celebrity endorsements are going right now, yes, we must applaud the companies, the brands, for getting celebrities to be part of their brand ambassadors. But the way it is, there are stringent rules. That means if an MTN is doing a show now, it's only the MTN stars you see there. You cannot see
People from Glow or
or
Salat.
So
Yes.
what I was talking about is that the performance value, what I call the performance value of events in Nigeria last year was very poor. And it's going to happen, the same thing is going to happen this year, except the brands get together and say, look, let's work this thing out. Because people cannot pay 5,000, 15,000, and you want me to see whiskey
Did you say
all over.
50,000? 1 million naira.
See?
200,000.
So you are saying the same artist. It's so predictable. So the brands need to work that out, and the artists themselves also need to work that out, because a whole lot of the performance value of so many